All right, guys, we are finally live on Facebook and YouTube. YouTube was struggling today. I don't know what's going on there, but anyways, welcome everybody to episode 21 of UnHacked. And today we are going to talk. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about budgets. We're going to talk about cybersecurity and productivity on a budget.
Money.
And so we tried this one before, and I didn't like my attitude on it, honestly. So we cut that one, and we're going to try again today. And I'll be honest. So I've had a lot of tough conversations with clients recently about getting equipment upgraded and useful, right, productive, and so yesterday, this is a brand new story. Yesterday, I'm meeting with the project manager of a multi-million-dollar company, and his computer's kind of tanking. You know, it's 3+ years old. It's low end specs. For when they bought it, it wasn't a great piece of equipment. It's out of warranty and it's acting up. And the biggest problem that I've got, my biggest concern is that it's not running security updates, right? So this is a security problem. Plus, it's a productivity problem because, as he put it when he was talking to me, he's like, "I've been dead in the water for 2 days." So, you know, when we're looking at somebody of this importance who's down, we're talking hard costs in the thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So that's kind of it's just, I guess, an illustration or a reminder of why this topic's important and the mindset that needs to go with it. So that's what we're going to break down today. We're going to talk about total cost of ownership, what that means, how you define it, how you calculate it, and how you make any, useful assumptions off of that. And we're going to do it both on hardware costs, and also we're going to dabble, bring cybersecurity into this as well, which will be a little bit more, I don't know if abstract is the right word, but maybe, not quite as easy to calculate as hardware costs. I've got good formulas for those. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get into it, though, let's make quick introductions. Mario, if you want to go first, and then Bryan, and I'll bring it home.
What's up, everybody? You should know me by now. Mario Zaki with Mastech IT. We are located in the North Jersey, right outside Manhattan area, servicing the entire state area. And today is celebrating our 20-year anniversary.
Oh,
congratulations.
Thank you. I bought the entire office, catered lunch today, and
nice.
They're all now stuffed and too lazy to answer the phone. So don't call us.
I mean, maybe I'll just deserve a day off. So.
Yeah, geez.
Congrats, man. Seriously.
Thank you. Not very many people make it to 20 years. That is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and the last 5 have been on the up. So thank God, blessed and great team, and everything is rolling in the right direction. So
having the last 5 on the way up during COVID and everything else, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. So.
COVID was actually big for us. COVID, and not to cut off from Bryan's time, but COVID was good for us because we work with a lot of government offices, and they had money that they had to burn during that time. So they were just buying.
Good old government. Good old government. God, I love them. All right, let's change subject fast before I just burn this place. Bryan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Bryan Lachapelle with B4 Networks, based in wonderful Niagara region, Ontario, Canada. I like to say that I help business owners get rid of the frustrations that come with dealing with technology, but more importantly, I help them get 1% better in their journey towards all things IT, whether it's cybersecurity or just using technology to have a strategic advantage in their business.
Bryan, you forgot the 1% better every day. You just said 1% better.
1% better every day. Yeah, I mean,
every day.
Every day we got to look at what can do today to get 1% better, and that's what it's all about, right?
What if you have a bad day and you go 2% backwards? Do you have to make it up in 3% the day after that?
No. It's not that you're going to get 1% better every day. It's that you're trying to figure out what you can do to get 1%. Yeah, because you can do these big, huge, giant pushes for anything in life, right? But example, like what the topic we're talking about today, I could replace every computer in my whole office and get 100% better tomorrow. But man, is that ever painful, right? versus I can replace a computer every week for the next 52 weeks if I have a 52 office, computer office. That would be a whole lot easier, right? Impact wise. So
Yeah. And I mean, for me personally, it seems like more of a mindset than it's like always be looking for that way to make small improvements. So the other thing about it though is, I mean, now we're really off topic, but it's, much more than 1% isn't sustainable. We can make these big pushes, but eventually you just run out of gas. So I do love your motto. I don't use it like you do. Oh, well, no, it's been something that's been on my mind for a long time. It really kind of started with Darren Hardy's book, and I can never remember what the title of that was, but anyways. So, all right. I am Justin Shelley with Phoenix IT Advisors. We do work in both the Dallas-Fort Worth metro and also Northern Nevada. And I'll tell you my passion. I've said this before, but I love technology, but my true passion is just business. And so I love today's topic and why it is so frustrating to me is because we've got to look at bigger pictures. The mindset of just cutting costs is dangerous, especially where technology is concerned, and really, especially where cybersecurity is concerned. So today, I'm really excited about this, and I hope I can say it in a way that is meaningful and can be heard by our audience, and not like that when I tried to do it before, I was kind of upset about a conversation I just had, and I think I came across a little bit less than professional. So we're going to do a retake on it. But here's the thing. So, and I mentioned this last time as well. I grew up with not a lot of money, right? We had 9 kids in the family. My parents busted their asses. I will never say that they didn't do everything that they could, but money was tight. And so there was just this mindset of cut costs, cut corners, and it was survival. That was necessity. But then I've also seen some version of it, and I don't know, maybe it's a generational thing. Our parents, our grandparents lived through the Great Depression, and so you can get so fixated on cutting money and cutting costs, cutting expenses, that you actually end up spending more money in the process. And that's really kind of where I want to take a spotlight today and shine it on that and show our audience how you can make an investment that pays for itself, and we can prove it with math that it can actually be cheaper to spend more money up front, but overall we want a better outcome, right? And we need some expectations there. So I'm looking at my notes, and okay, so I've got to come back to that conversation I had yesterday where the guy, he's frustrated and he's been down for 2 days, and I'm looking at it, and I got his computer back up and running. It's fine, right? But it's 3 years old. It's out of warranty. It's struggling. It's seen better days. And I told him, I'm like, you can get a little bit more life out of this if you want, or we can put something in here that's high performance, that's got a 5-year warranty, that checks all the boxes, and we can get you screaming. And I was like, I'd like to get a little bit more life out of this one. So that was kind of it's fine. It's his decision. But this is what I want to break down is, did he save money by doing that? And let's do the math behind it. Now, Bryan, this, even though I'm passionate about this concept, you kind of brought me to a really cool way of doing the math on this. So we're going to, before I go there, I want you to kind of just think about that cost per hour that you talked about. And then Mario, I want you to first talk about total cost of ownership. Can you just kind of describe, in your own words, but what is a total cost of ownership where technology is concerned?
Well, it's when you essentially are buying like a computer or a car, or stuff like that, there's going to be things that come along with it. It's going to when you, like, for example, like a car, there's going to be, you're buying a used car, you're going to have to do some maintenance on it, you're going to have to do brakes and all that stuff. When you're purchasing a computer, it's so hard to explain this.
Well, let me
essentially,
bail you out if you want me. So
yeah,
look at I want to throw an example out there because I use Uber quite a bit when I'm traveling,
Mm,
and I see people with these relatively nice cars that I'm assuming, right? I don't know this. I don't talk to them about it. I'm assuming that they're driving because they usually have full-time jobs, and then this they're doing to make the car payment so they can have a nicer car. So this is an example where I'm going to make an assumption that they are not contemplating the total cost of ownership of their car. They're
Right.
looking at a car payment. So is that something you want to take and run with, or
yeah,
um,
yeah. So there's a lot more involved with it. It's not just like your monthly expense for just like your lease or for your, your outright purchase of the computer or the phone. I'm sorry, or the car. It's the stuff that comes along with it. The maintenance, the upgrades, the protection of it, the user using it. Like the employee that's using it. If it's running slow, if you buy them like an i3 processor with 4 gigs of RAM, just getting on like Google is going to take them like 5 minutes. So what when you invest in that, it's also what else comes along with it that slows
Right.
it down or speeds the whole process up. You get them, a rocket of a computer or a rocket of a car, you're going to get from where you want to go from point A to point B a lot faster, which means they're going to be more productive. You know, not that I'm saying get rockets for cars for people for your boys, but it's if it's going to give them trouble, that's all money. All the time is money.
well, and one of the things I look at, so back to Uber, when I jump in, anytime somebody shows up with a Tesla, and again, I'm making a lot of assumptions, but I'm guessing that they're not really looking down the road to that $20,000 plus battery replacement that might have to happen, right?
Mm.
So they might be able to make a payment, but then what happens when their battery dies and it's not under warranty? Because they're really just using their car a lot more than most normal people would use their car because we're driving all the time. Um, so if you factor that in, I could probably do the math to make the case that they're not making money at all
Right.
driving their car for Uber. They
Absolutely.
might actually be donating their time and money to charity, right? And I thank them for it.
Absolutely.
But
Unless they get
so
really big tips.
yeah, right. So Bryan, let's talk about the math that you do when you're talking to your clients about buying hardware. How do
Yeah.
you present that?
Well, there's a couple of things because I run into clients who often, and listen, I love my clients. I mean no disrespect of this, but a lot of times it's a very narrow mindset. Like, hey, it's going to cost me $2,000 for a net new computer, including installation. I can get the same one from Best Buy for half the price, right? Well, no, you can't because that one from Best Buy is going to be older technology, less it might not have a good warranty. You'll probably have to go and source it yourself. You have to go pick it up. If there's a problem with it, you got to bring it back to that place. And so there's all those components of, even if they want to replace a piece of hardware, buying it through us, although it might be slightly more expensive, comes with its own set of benefits, right? If there's a problem, I'll just swap it out, and all sorts of things like that. But when it comes to how I justify actually replacing the computer versus just keeping the old machine in place, I always come back down to what is the biggest line item on your P&L statement, right? For every single business I've ever seen, the biggest line item on the P&L statement is not IT,
Is computer
it's not
costs?
computers.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
right. It's not insurance, it's
weird.
people, right? Payroll
Yeah,
is the biggest line item on anybody's P&L statement,
by a
right? The
lot.
average, yeah, the average employee costs us anywhere from $250 to $500 a day, right? Depending on what kind of industry you're in and how much you're paying people. That's a huge cost, right? And so I like to take a computer and break it down into how many hours that they're going to be using it throughout the year and comparing that to someone's salary. So for example, the average computer all in, including licensing, installation, configuration, and the cost of the computer, let's just pretend for a second it's $2,000 for that computer. The average computer will last between 2 to 3 years. I recommend 3 years, right? And some people might be saying, well, no, I keep mine for 4 or 5. Well, you can, But again, productivity, right? How much more productive will a person be if they had a new computer? So you take a look at that and you break down a $2,000 computer into the amount of hours that you can generally use a computer, or an employee will be using a computer. And for most of us, that's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And so you essentially do the math breakdown on that. And so if I were to do that real quick and just like take $2,000, right? We take $2,000 and we're just going to divide it by 3 years. We're going to take that number, we're going to divide that by 52 weeks. We're going to take that number and divide it by the average 7-hour workday. And maybe I did my math a little off here, because this number seems a little bit on the high side. Let me just redo that again.
While you're redoing it, we can average a work year is about 2,000 hours. Okay, so if you take 52 times 8, you've got 2,080, and then you take about 80 off for time off, sick, vacation, whatever else. You get about 2,000 hours per year.
Right. So you're looking at about 33 cents for your average computer all in, right? And I'm not talking about like high-end laptop or, engineering laptop or anything, but, typically if you have a need for those things, those engineers will cost you a lot more. So 33 cents per hour for the average computer, and that's assuming you're only using it for those hours. Maybe you've got 2 shifts, whatever the case may be. An employee will cost you 200 plus per day, right? So you look at the productivity. If they can even get 15 minutes better productivity out of that workstation, your already ROI is already better. Not factoring in employee frustrations, not factoring in the fact that they got a call outside of the environment, like maybe to their IT provider, and or just in general complaining to their neighbor about how slow their computer is, not factoring in the fact that, listen, I've gone to places like banks and sales places buying a car, and the guy behind the counter is like, oh, this computer, it's always giving me problems. And so now I'm looking at this, I'm let's say at a BMW dealership, and I'm hearing this guy complaining about a computer, and I'm thinking, geez, this BMW dealership can't even afford to buy their people computers. So now that changes my opinion on the business itself, right? So you've got all these different factors playing in other than just the total cost of ownership, because employee turnover, listen, if I worked at a place that computer wasn't working well and I've constantly having problems, and my boss isn't willing to invest in me and in my job to make my life a little easier, I'm out. There's tons of employers that will be willing and more than happy to get me the technology that I need to do my job. And you're going to now have to find another person. Now, I know we're probably going to touch on that, so I'm probably jumping ahead. But
you usually do, Bryan. You usually do.
I apologize.
No, that's actually, I love that example, because I had, and I've got clients, we'll have the whole array of conversations with the same client on this subject. And in one case, we're saying, spending freeze, we're not buying anything. And then in the next case, we're bringing on an employee who we, is one of the higher end employees. And they're like, do we have any spare laptops we can give them? I'm like, yeah, here's what we've got. And they look at it and they go, shit, I'm not giving that to this new employee. What's that say about us to them?
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden we're shifting that mindset a little bit on, where we really want to cut these costs. So
exactly.
Mario, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I actually, no, go ahead, Bryan.
I was just gonna say, we talked a little bit about PCs, but this applies across the whole gamut of things, right? It's not just PCs; it's all the equipment in your office, everything that we deal with, phones, PCs, manufacturing equipment, chairs, like all of it. So,
how many times do you see people on these broken down office chairs and their backs hurting and like
embarrassing? Honestly.
Yeah. We actually have a client that ends up every time they hire somebody new, they just say, okay, let's take one of these old computers out of the closet and set them up to use this new computer. And the new employee's coming in. He's like, okay, well, I'm working right here in the corner. I'm sitting here on like a stool, and you're giving me a computer that's taking 15 minutes to boot up. Even though that computer was a computer that somebody couldn't use anymore. So we're like, let's replace it. They replaced it. And then they took that old computer and just put it in a closet. I'm like, you don't need to hold that in the closet. Let's just take it out back and smash it with a hammer. Like literally, like take out the hard drive, smash out, and then might as well smash the rest of the thing out. And they're like, no, we'll keep it in case we need it. And then 2 weeks later, we get an onboard. They're like, oh yeah, they're going to use this computer. We're like, it's then what ends up happening is like a couple of weeks later, the employee can't get their work done, so they have to swap it out. We take an hour or two of their time to log in, or we go in there, move them, and then they have to sit there and wait for us to finish transferring all their data to another computer. But but the old computer is so slow that it takes an hour or two to do it. And we're like, there's times where we're like, listen, this computer cannot be reused again.
Yeah.
And like that's forget about what we have to go through as ITs. Okay, no, fuck us. All right, but I'm talking about the employees. Like these guys, if you're literally giving them like, okay, here's a piece of garbage that you're going to work on. Welcome to the team. Don't be surprised when 2 weeks later they give you the resignation.
Yeah. I'm working this into because we're redoing a lot of things internally at our company. And one of the things I've built in is when an employee is terminated, we collect their equipment and we evaluate it, and we may or may not return it to service. And and it's a decision that's made mostly by us. Also, we allow the clients to set their own standards to an extent, but there is a cutoff where if you don't want to replace it, then it's not going to be on our service agreement, and we're going to charge you by the hour to service it. Right? We'll just remove it from contract. And now, so Mario and Bryan, you both kind of talked about emotional costs, we can call it, right? Which would fall under, because there's really kind of two categories. You've got hard costs, which you can do with math and dollars, and then you've got these soft costs, which they're still real. They're just hard to calculate. So, Bryan, where you're talking about getting 1% better every day, and yet you've got employees who are just angry because their stuff doesn't work. They're getting this subliminal message of, we care, air quotes.
Which is not important enough for me to invest in.
Yeah, but you're sitting on a broken chair and your back hurts and your computer won't boot up and it freezes all the time. Oh, and by the way, you're responsible for millions of dollars of revenue for the company. So it's harder to calculate those soft costs, but they're still very real.
Yeah.
And I really wish there was a way to calculate the emotional cost, translate that into dollars. Because when you've got, when you have a bad day, I do it. So I'll just tell on myself when things aren't going great. Now, listen, the last few years have been rough for me. So I've gone through a lot of stuff, but all it takes is one little, the straw that breaks the camel's back, to where I can literally just sit and stare at my screen for hours because I'm not in a place where I can work productively. Now I own the company. I've got a lot of responsibilities, and I know ways to get myself out of that. But if I'm an employee where I don't feel like the company cares, there's no real reason for me to try. They're not trying. Man, I can blow off a day, 2 days, or a week, no problem. So there is a direct cost to these soft costs.
Just hard to calculate.
It is. It's hard to calculate, but I think that there's value in at least talking about it so that there's some awareness around it, right? And that's kind of the hope for this conversation. One thing, and Bryan, you did say this, and I don't know that I have because it's something I've just started doing. It's kind of a test program, but I'm starting to buy computers that do come with a really quick return for warranty. No questions asked through this company, and a mandatory 5-year warranty. So I can take this total cost of ownership and now stretch it out over 10,000 hours, and I can get my cost per hour down to about 20 to 30 cents, depending on the equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what I came up with? 20 cents. Yeah. So, go back to that project manager, and I could give him a state of the art, high end, upgraded, everything he needs in a computer, like you said, we'll throw in new monitors, or let's throw in a UPS, a battery backup, to make sure that the power spikes don't kill it. All these things with the quick turn warranty, for 20 cents an hour, I could change this guy's life, but it didn't happen. It's like, okay. But when that computer dies, we're going to have a conversation. I'm not going to have it today, but we will have that conversation soon. All right. So what else do we want to talk about as far as TCO or hardware costs? And then once we've got that cleared up, these are kind of final thoughts before we transition into cybersecurity.
Well, I will touch on one thing, and that's I think we had just really quickly touched on it before we got on the call, but I think it's important to have a conversation here live with everybody on the call here, and that is there are times where a client will have, and in our listeners might be in this boat, where they have an agreement with a managed service provider, and there's this misunderstanding of value for money when it comes to um, a provider like us, and that is you know we have this older computer, and so as a business owner, why would I care how much time it takes you to fix it, because I'm on this unlimited service agreement anyway, right? So it doesn't benefit me as a business owner. I'm pretending I'm the client, right? It doesn't benefit me as a business owner if my if you have to spend 2 hours on this computer every month to fix it. Well, there's a couple things. One, every time your employees are calling me and my team, they're not working, and they're actually getting more frustrated and more um, um, irritated by having technology that doesn't work. And so not only are they not earning you dollars when they're on the phone with me, they're not getting their job done. They're getting that frustration that's adding on and piling on over and over again. But secondly, every business owner will go through this process internally and say, okay, we've got this customer, and the lifetime um, value of the customer is X, and the amount of work and effort we put into this customer is Y. And if Y is higher than X, then something's got to change. We've got to increase our price. And so while yes, customers are on an unlimited service agreement, as business owners in IT, we're also looking at how are we going to make sure that we stay profitable? Because listen, we're all in this for a reason. Yes, I want to help get people get 1% better, but we're not going to do it for free, right? We have to earn income. In fact, you want your IT provider to be profitable. If they're not profitable, they're going to cut corners. And when they start cutting corners because they're not profitable, then you are in danger of being non-compliant or having cybersecurity incidents, because they're having to cut costs. And usually where they cut costs is not having the personnel or the resources to be able to help you when you need it. So just bear that in mind when you're looking at all of the variables. Yes, you can get unlimited service, so who cares about this older computer? But there's all these other things that should be considered as well. The fact that unproductive employee on your end, and potential price increases on the agreement when it comes up for renewal.
Right. Mario, thoughts on the hardware before we switch to cybersecurity?
Yeah, and we talked about this last time. We get, or I get a lot of emails, and I don't want to say a lot, but like at least like once every 2 weeks, I'll get a client that says, we have a new employee starting like next week, or we want to upgrade this or that, and they'll send me like a link, and it's to like a clearance item at Best Buy, and it's like a laptop for like $350. And I'm like, like, first of all, this thing doesn't even have like an SSD hard drive, or it doesn't have, this is an i3 processor, or it's just like a old model. Like, and I always tell them, like, listen, you've heard the expression, you get what you pay for. This, with computers and stuff like that, it's the same model. If you're trying to buy a computer for 350 bucks, you're going to get, versus like a computer that's like say $1,500, you really are going to get that percentage. You're going to get 1/5 of the speed. You're going to get 1/5 of the warranty, or you're going to have, if you get this computer and it breaks down on you in like 6 months, you're going to have to take it back to Best Buy. They're going to keep it for 3-4 days while this high school kid tries to like figure out what's wrong with it, and you're going to be out of use with it for almost a week, if not more. So one thing people have to realize is, just like everything else, you will get what you pay for. Occasionally, yeah, sometimes you can get like a bulk discount, or something like that, but when you're buying garbage, you're going to get garbage performance out of it.
And what I love on that scenario that you just presented, because the numbers that I've been kicking around, and Bryan as well, have been the total cost of the computer. But now what you're talking about is the difference in cost between a good quality computer that will do the job and do it well, and the back of the warehouse. And you said i3 and not SSD hardware, which, by the way, for the business owners out there that don't give a shit about this stuff, that just means it's going to be slow, right?
Yeah.
So we take the price difference that you gave, which was about $1,000, and you divide it out over 3 to 5 years, and you're talking pennies per hour. And what I like to do is say, okay, your employee comes to you and says, hey boss, can I get a 20-cent per hour raise? And that's all I need. I just, I'll be happier. I'm going to do a better job here. I'm just going to make my home life better. I just need 20 cents an hour. Like, this isn't even, it's
And
really
I'll
not even a
produce
conversation.
five times more work.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a hard way to calculate this, where we can just show the true value. But then, the other thing, the example I started with, where you've got a project manager who is responsible for, like millions of dollars a year, and you take one day away from them and, divide that over the life of a computer, and mathematically, I can show you that it is cheaper to spend more on your computer. Right. And that's kind of what I want to transition with, because I don't know that I can really do that with cybersecurity. It's a different type of expense. But where hardware investment is concerned, mathematically, I can prove that it is cheaper to get better equipment. And that going back to the title, this is productivity on a budget. We're not sitting here saying spend more money and get less. We're not even saying spend more money and get the same. We're saying spend more money and get exponentially more than you invested. Like, throw your money in the stock market and you're going to get 10x return on it. That's a no-brainer. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. So
spend it smarter.
Exactly. Right. So now let's go into cyber.
Before you go into cybersecurity, the other thing is too, and I'm pretty, what we do with our customers, if you buy your own equipment, you're responsible for your own warranty. So if you go out and buy it from Best Buy, and the motherboard fails and you want us to fix it, we're going to tell you, okay, the motherboard's shot, send it back to wherever you got it from.
Right.
But you didn't get it from us. You're now responsible for taking it to them, and now you're down more. When you buy it from us, we're assuming the responsibility. So we're going to we're going to swap it out with another one that we have in stock, or we'll take care of because all the warranties that we get is next day hardware delivery. So that hardware will be at your door or our door the very next day. So we're taking the responsibility.
Yeah.
We're calling Dell and hopping on India and explaining to them everything that we did. And they're gonna, we're saving you that frustration. But when you buy it on your own and you're going out on a budget, we're not responsible for that hardware.
Yeah, so this change that we've made recently actually bypasses the part you just talked about, where you're talking to their employee, Dell's employee or whoever in another country, and you've got language barriers, and they've got processes that they have to go through to validate the work that we've already done. Like, we know it's a motherboard, we know it's a hard drive, and yet we still have to fight with their support to get that turnover. We might get an overnight delivery once we've agreed on the problem, but it can still take us a day or 2 or 3, right, to jump through those hoops. This manufacturer we're starting to use now, it's a no questions asked. They only work with IT companies, and they trust our diagnostics, and we can call up and say, hey, I need a hard drive. They just turn a hard drive. So that's where we're taking, again, that downtime. We've got to get rid of that. I don't ever want to see a project manager telling me I've been down for 2 days. Jesus, let's not do that. You're worth too much money to be playing this game over a few $100s. So, okay, now let's take this a little less tangible and talk about cybersecurity. But I still think we can calculate. I don't know about TCO, doesn't exactly apply here, but it kind of does.
Yeah.
But we can take the cost to secure an employee and divide that out by hourly wages, right? So, and Bryan, Mario, do either of you guys have a service agreement that is just security?
Yes. I definitely have a security-only agreement where we just provide not the base level, like a reasonable amount of security, and everything else is a la carte.
Do you mind sharing what a cost per employee per month is for that your basic security package? Is that something you can share?
I mean, typically it's combination of computers and users, but if you had an equal number, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 to $70 Canadian. So $1 US or something like that.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
I know.
Mario, what about you? Do you have something like that?
Yeah, so we're doing the per computer, and we're charging about $40 a month per computer for security only,
Yeah, probably
because
about the
backup
same.
and stuff like that.
So similar. Let's go at 50. We'll take a round number, and you divide that by 22 days in a week or in a month, right? 22 work days, and then divide that again by 8 hours per day, and we can come up with a rough cost per hour for security of about 30 cents. All right. So if we take that and we add it to the computer, call it another 30 cents. And I'm estimating high here, really. Maybe it's a total of 60, 70, even call it $1 an hour, right, per employee, where we can take them and make them productive and we can protect them. Like the hardware costs, if somebody really wants to cut corners, I mean, God bless, go do you, because you can get through that. But if you cut costs on cybersecurity, um, this is a different game, right? This is something we can't tolerate. This is not something where I'll say, okay, user, then we're just going to charge you by the hour when things go bad.
Yeah, no, we don't do that.
I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Best of luck. Do not call me when the Russians break into your network.
Yeah,
Right.
at the end of the day, like when you get breached, and you're the one who actually brought this up once upon a time, Justin. When you get breached, it is one of the only crimes that I can think of. There's another one, but I won't mention it. One of the only crimes I can think of that the victim is blamed, right?
Yeah.
You got breached. What did you do wrong? What didn't you do? How did what were you that incompetent, right? And at the end of the day, two things will happen. They'll either include the IT provider, even though the IT provider did not have an agreement to do that, support that level of IT expertise, or they'll bring you up in a lawsuit anyway. And so from my perspective, I want to behave like a doctor and or a lawyer. There's a certain level of professionalism that I have to bring to the table, and the ability to say no. It's not like, oh, you're not going to do cybersecurity, so therefore, like, you're bad, and so I don't want to deal with you. It's you don't want to do cybersecurity, you don't take it seriously. That is beyond my control to be able to deal with at that point in time, and it would be unprofessional of me to continue working with you, right? Because I know as a professional that you need these things, and if you don't want to do those things, it's not that I don't want to work with you. It's like I realistically, ethically can't. So
Yeah, it's just exactly what you said. If you go to a doctor and you tell him, and he's telling you, well, you need open heart surgery, or you need to take this medicine, or you need to lose some weight, and you tell him, no, it's
right,
unethical. It's like, okay, you don't have to do any of that stuff, but still pay me your money. And if you happen to have a heart attack, it wasn't my fault. We're not going to do it. We're not going to put our asses on the line if you're not willing to put in what you need to do.
Yeah. And while we can't do the same mathematical equations here, what we can do, though, is say that for 30 cents an hour, that cost, and I'm not going to say that's a small cost. I get it. When you've got a lot of employees, this stuff adds up. I know that. But if you cut that cost and you get breached, I mean, where the cost comparison, it's either absurd and painful and like devastating, or B, it's game over, right? In a lot of cases, it's not just painful, it's not just difficult to recover, it's game over. If you get breached and the breach is bad enough and you weren't prepared enough, you're out of business. And now you're dusting up off your resume, and all your employees are trying to figure out how they're buying Christmas presents for their kids.
right.
So a lot is on the line here. But again, so coming back to the topic, because this isn't a sales pitch. I don't want anything here to be construed as, hey, we're here trying to get you to spend money without getting